All right. Welcome on back to another episode. We're a little bit different today. No Adam, but here we got two realest dudes in the room. Myself, the innkeeper, and Brandon Cauley Baines. Brandon, happy to be here.
Yeah, what's going on, man? Hope you're doing good. Hope everything's good with you. Let's get this thing on the road.
All right, we're gonna kick it off with our Goonery of the week. Brandon, you want to lead us off on that?
Sure, no problem, because I have no problem always talking about how bad the Jets are. So if you saw the conclusion of the Jets and Raiders last week, you saw the Jets were very, very close to getting their first win, and they did the most Jets thing possible to lose that game. So you would think like how bad the season's been going for the Jets that
Mhm.
Adam Gase will be out of a job. Instead, we have Greg Williams out of a job, and you could tell it's been brewing for a time
Mhm.
because Adam Gase and Greg Williams have not had the best relationship with Greg Williams, throwing the offense under the bus and everything like that. And it just seems like Adam Gase is a pretty petty and just not so aware of a human being at this point as being a Jets coach. But it just shows how just poor and where the morals of this franchise lie right now, considering they scapegoated the defensive coordinator. And when you can make an argument
Mhm.
that he's been the most important part of this team so far, considering they've had no offense the entire season. So it's I can't even say I'm disappointed because like this isn't surprising, but like at where do the Jets go from here? Because it just seems like it's the same cycle over and over, them making the bad decisions. And I don't know if you feel this way too, but I feel like there is a room, a window in the Jets organization that I feel that they could possibly keep Adam Gase. It's a weird feeling,
Mm-mm.
but I feel
Mm-mm.
it's like if it's not now, then when is it gonna be?
So my thoughts on that are they came into this year fully expecting to be one of the worst three or five teams in the entire NFL. I think at least that's what I thought coming into this year. Obviously, they've just been since drafting Sam Darnold, no positives. In all honesty, it seems like Darnold can't stay on the field. They can't get a supporting cast around him on the offensive side of the football. The defense has always been okay. I mean, it's the Jets. I feel like they're a defensive-minded football team like the Bears, but with that with the way they've played this year, obviously any Jets fan I follow on Twitter, they all want to tank for Trevor, tank for Trevor. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent, probably the best quarterback prospect coming out of college since Andrew Luck, in my opinion, I would say.
Yep.
But you have to think with how that game ended with Williams sending seven guys on that last play and leaving it one-on-one with Henry Ruggs, the guy who had the fastest time at the combine last year. He had to have gotten the call from upstairs on that, right? Like throw it. But NFL players, they're playing for themselves. They're not playing for the franchise at that point. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if they're just that bad and Greg Williams is that dense, or management got in their ears on the sideline and told them to lose that game. But none of those people on that coaching staff are in a position to lose that game.
Whatsoever. And it's a good point that you brought up. I think players know that they're replaceable. Every single one of them. You could be a
Mm-hmm.
star player on the team, you're replaceable. So they play for themselves. So I would not be surprised if it was a Jets thing where one side is saying, "Hey, call this coverage, but hey, try to win this game." It would be the most Jets thing ever. So right now, like it's one of those things where they were 0-11 coming to the game, but now you're 0-12 with that kind of loss. It's like where do you go from here? Like if I'm a player, it's like why do I even want to play for this team when
Mm-hmm.
you're not holding the right guys accountable? And I feel like that's been an issue with Adam Gase because he has never held himself. It seems like he's never held himself
No,
accountable. He's always
absolutely not.
his
No.
else, especially his quarterback, who he was brought there to help as well. And guess what? He's going to be the one that's going to be scapegoated, unfortunately. So it's bad all around. And you just hope for Sam Darnold, he gets out of that situation. I'm not saying he should get traded to the Bears, but just him just get out of the
Mm-hmm.
situation would just be the most best thing from possible.
No, I'm a big fan of Sam Darnold. Obviously, he shows the flashes every like. There's a couple throws a week where you watch him when he's actually on the field, and you're like, damn, this guy has the ability to be as good as he was supposed to be when he was drafted. But when
Hmm.
your number one wide receiver, no offense to Jamison Crowder, that's your number one option on the offensive side of the football, you're not being primed for success. They have Jamison Crowder, Brashad Perriman, and Chris Herndon to throw the football to with I think a
Yeah.
38 or 39-year-old Frank Gore running the ball. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster, and no one will succeed there. I don't care I don't even care if Patrick Mahomes is playing quarterback for you. That team is maybe winning 4 or 5 games.
Possibly.
I
That's
mean, that
I
might
mean, because
even be a stretch. That honestly might even be a stretch.
oh, and that's the thing. And you can say the same thing about the Bears. You know, they it just the generational structure that they have.
Mhm.
Who knows what quarterback comes through there, will they ever be successful just from the people that's upstairs that's calling all the shots. They don't know it gets to the point where you think they don't know football. That's how bad it's been for the past how many years now?
Mhm.
So who
I mean, yeah,
knows?
I mean, the Jets haven't scared anyone in the NFL since the days of Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez, which is, I mean, just absolutely ridiculous that that's even a sentence being spoken.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know because I know you're out in New Jersey. Like, I'm sure you have a lot of people around you who are Jets fans. But like, what's the vibe about this team? Do they want to lose out and get that first pick? Did they want to win that game last week? I'm assuming as a fan you want to lose out.
so, for most of the Jet fans, friends that I have an APB out for them because I can't find them anywhere. They're not talking, but what? I'm not gonna try to come and find them either because when your team is that bad, I'd rather leave you alone because you might come
Hmm.
at me. You might come at my family for how bad they are
Hmm.
because it's bad now. It's really, really bad. But I think at this point they just don't care about where the franchise goes. At
Yeah,
this point, they'll
yeah.
just try to regroup and just see what happens in the offseason.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's mediocrity out there. But I'm gonna move on into my Goonery of the week, and it's a late ad, but I feel like we had to mention this. It's more so pivoting off of what I said last week and just the NFL's inability to have structured COVID protocols for every team and playing into the big markets. I mean, it's going out to the Ravens and Des Bryant. And with Des Bryant having an inconclusive test before the game and then being pulled off the field during warmups, being around all of his teammates, and then supposedly testing positive. He goes on his Twitter tirade saying that he's going to be drinking wine, telling everyone about his business ventures he has planned up, how he's done for the season. And then he tweeted out today that since that positive test, he has tested negative twice. And I mean, I know Dez is, what is he, 33, 34? He's right around somewhere in that range. I mean, hasn't been in the league doing much of anything the last 2, 3 years. But this was a revenge game for him. He wanted to go out there and prove himself against the Cowboys and didn't even have the opportunity. And I'm going to be honest, if he's actually tested positive twice since then, I mean, I think Jerry Jones is pulling some strings and he has something out for Des Bryant.
I mean, if you think about it like this, who is the one? Because you notice retired or just former Cowboys, they speak nothing but glowingly about the
Mm-hmm.
organization. Hence
Mm-hmm.
Michael Irvin, hence Emmett Smith, Troy Aikman. But Des Bryant has been the main one who's always been critical of the Cowboys' structural just
Mm-hmm.
organization. So did Jerry Jones pull some strings to try to get a false positive on Des Bryant? I don't know. That's
Yeah,
conspiracy talk.
that's some tinfoil hat stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know how the NFL is going to continue to handle this because let's be real about something. This stuff is going to continue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they gonna do? It is December. It's December 10th. And we're still asking what plan do you have in place
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
make sure doesn't become an issue going forward. Obviously, there's going to be players that's going to contract COVID over the course of the season. That's a given. Even if you follow the right protocols, it just seems to pop up on you. That's what it seems like.
Yep. Yep.
So, what are you gonna do about it? It seemed like the NFL didn't have a plan for it because they had one thing planned, set in stone. They were gonna play this season
Mm-hmm.
regardless. So that tells me that they really never had a plan in place. But if you have another situation with the Steelers and Ravens when the season winding down, what are you supposed to do at that point?
Mm-hmm. Playoffs. I mean, especially as we inch closer and closer towards the playoffs, if you have people popping up last minute testing positive for COVID, I mean, look, like it makes no sense to me the way the NFL's testing protocols are going on. Like you saw, was that last week with the Chiefs when at 3 in the morning they found out they had 7 people test positive, and then they wake everyone up,
Yep.
they do contact tracing, they test them again, and somehow magically they were all false positives, and they all tested negative again,
Hmm.
and all for Pat Mahomes to play in prime time. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. And as we head into the playoffs, I think we're going to see a disaster at some point.
I think for because number one, with Roger Goodell, he was pretty adamant there's going to be no bubble. If you are
Hmm.
that confident that the game's going to be played, all power to you. But if if plays pop up with COVID, what are you going to do then? You're gonna just cancel the game? You're going to postpone it? What are you going to do? So that's number
Hmm.
one. Number two, with Des Bryant coming out with all this stuff about the false positives and stuff, he's not getting another job in the NFL. He's going to get
Nope.
blackballed
Nope. Yep.
because this is the one thing the NFL feared throughout anything. And we know good and damn well over the course of NFL's history, they don't like when their players speak out. And especially at a time like this, oh no, he's not getting another job. And that's the most unfortunate thing because there is something that is amiss with the whole process of testing. And we're never going to know that because they
Hmm.
probably said, okay, Des, that's it. You don't get to say no more. But he said enough
Yep.
to say, all right, you know what? Just for that, I'm gonna make sure there's gonna be no team that's gonna call you going forward. And regardless, is trending towards the end of his career. I'm pretty sure there's
Yeah.
not going to be a lot of teams that was going to call him anyway. But just they're going to assure that he will not get any more calls.
No, absolutely. And I mean, and he's not just out there trying to cash a check because he's just been toiling away on the Ravens practice squad for most of this year. He's played, I think he's
Right.
been active. That would have been his third active game, I think. He's not doing much, but you can't question the guy's love for the game. And that's what's unfortunate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
And we make jokes about he's been running routes for the past 3 years and whatnot. There's a lot of guys that just stop playing
mhm,
football
mhm.
and they don't even touch it, they don't even watch it. He has been working his ass off to get back into the league. Regardless of how y'all can make all the jokes in the world about that, there's not a lot of places that would do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna drop it in there. We can say Des caught it. Mo- moving on
I agree.
into yeah, yeah. But moving on into I'm gonna say just this is gonna be an ugly discussion regarding our Chicago Bears. I mean, just the organizational like just what's I don't even know the word. Just it's gross.
Dumpster fire.
It's yeah, it starts up top and the McCaskey family will never sell the team. And that's what it all starts with. I mean, they have been stuck in 1985 since 1985.
Hmm.
Their their inability to understand that things need to change just blows my mind. And I understand there's franchises who don't like firing people during the middle of the season, and the Bears are very clearly one of them. But if we get past Black Monday and Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace still have a job with the Chicago Bears, I have absolutely no hope for the future. And I
This is
know,
one. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I'm not going to blame this loss on Matt Nagy per se. The offense put up 30 points. Anytime you put up 30 points in the NFL, that's a solid offensive outing. But I mean, the defense, like Chuck Pagano, just is with this great pass rush we're supposed to have that's non-existent, and the Nagy's guys just look like they don't even want to be out there. Like he's supposed to be this big motivating players coach, and I know all the guys are athletes on the team coming out saying we love playing for Coach Nagy, we love being here, but that's BS. None of them want to be
Hmm.
playing for him right now, and it is quite apparent.
Absolutely. And this is one of those games where after the Packers lost, I said the season's over. I don't care anymore.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
you would think like, okay, if they lose this game, they lose. But this was probably the most depressing loss since the playoff game against the Eagles. And just for the simple fact that this is a team that the Bears have been beating to just for the past couple of seasons. They've dominated them if for the
Hmm.
most part. And
Yeah.
then you turn around and you blow a lead with in like was it 45, 46 seconds.
Hmm.
How does that happen? You say you won't blame Nagy disrespect.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Hey, you cut out there. What are you
Why
saying?
is he
Just repeat.
at that point of the field? Like it's just like there it made it made no sense, and it also made no sense to the fact that David Montgomery's been running the ball good all game long.
Yep.
What
It
like
I don't think he got his first carry in the second half till 3 minutes left in the third quarter.
yep.
Why do you abandon the run game like that? You finally have an offensive line combination who is making big enough holes for David Montgomery, and David Montgomery is bouncing off guys, making guys miss in the open field. He looked about as good as he's looked all year, I would say, in
Yep.
that first half. And just to completely abandon the running game makes absolutely no sense to me. You should be trying to limit the amount of times you have Mitch Trubisky throw the football. You have an offensive line who's finally clicking. You have Montgomery, and you're just going to continue to. You're not taking deep shots down the field with Mitch. You're going to throw little dump offs, screen passes, quick slants, out routes, and pick up 4 or 5 yards every time. Which, whatever. I get that's what you're. We all know that's what you're getting out of Mitch at this point. But I mean, you're never going to win with an air raid offense in the NFL, and you're not. Do not have the right people around you to be running an air raid offense.
And it's been a hallmark of Matt Nagy to abandon the run, act
Mm-hmm.
like he has some all-pro quarterback behind center. And you would think this is one of those things where Ryan Pace is trying to save his investment and trying to make the most of it until it eventually just like his job is going now. Because the
Mm-hmm.
fact that Mitch Trubisky has failed again this year, and I'm not ragging on him because I feel like he had a bad game on Sunday because he actually played
Mm-hmm.
pretty good on
Played pretty
Sunday.
well. He played pretty well.
I'll be the first to admit it. But Ryan Pace Ryan Pace has put in place Trubisky in a position where he wants him to be the guy that saves them. I don't know if this is just Matt Nagy being incompetent of a head coach, but you have to think deeper than this because Matt Nagy is an offensive mind that came from the Andy Reid tree. And just seeing for what Doug Peterson is doing in Philadelphia, maybe that's not the best thing. Okay, whatever. But at what point are you going to trust who you have at running back? Because maybe Jordan Howard, when you look at David Montgomery and how he runs, it is so clearly that he's trying to gain every single
Mm-hmm.
yard he can.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he's not given a chance, and even in the passing game, is so mind-numbingly frustrating. And to touch on your point about the whole head coaching and defensive coordinator stuff, you know, Chuck Pagano, good. I'm pretty sure he's a good guy. I'm happy he
Mm-hmm.
survived cancer. He just seems like a really good guy, but he has to go.
Oh,
And you can
absolutely.
tell after the Packers game, it was just a loss of confidence because the Lions aren't going to light up anybody. I don't give a damn if it's Matt Stafford behind center. Matt Stafford is a great quarterback,
Hall
but
of Famer, in my opinion.
borderline, borderline Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
But is he lighting up that Bears defense with all the talent
No,
they have on
he
there?
shouldn't.
No.
He shouldn't.
Absolutely not. So when you have a defense like that and you cannot capitalize on the talent that they have, he has to go. He simply has to go. And if Matt Nagy's going to keep his job and Chuck Pagano's going to go, it's going to be like, okay, I guess whatever. But someone has to go. If it's both of them, I'm cool with that as well. And hell, I'm pretty sure Ryan Pace is going to go. I'm pretty sure
No,
already.
I saw something on Twitter today from I believe it was either the Athletic or Bleacher Report. I forgot who had tweeted out when I was scrolling earlier, and it said like someone internally reported, according to sources, Ryan Pace is on his way out of Chicago, which honestly it makes me feel good heading into this offseason, at least knowing we can expect a little bit of change. And I understand in the middle to late rounds of the draft, Ryan Pace has done very well. Ryan Pace has done exceptional
Absolutely,
in the later rounds of the draft. But
absolutely.
when you whiff on guys like Kevin White, Adam Shaheen, uh, who am I missing early? I'm gonna call Anthony Miller a bust. Like trading up for Anthony Miller, Mitch. I mean, obviously Mitch. That's more on Nagy and the whole head coaching situation. I would say the development of him, but it's just it's infuriating, but it makes me feel better heading into this offseason knowing well, not knowing, but having the thought in my head that things might be a little bit different. I don't know which direction they're going to take it in, but all I know is that if Ryan Pace is gone, Matt Nagy's out, there's going to be change. And what will that be, though? Will that be the fifth Bears head coach in how many years? No,
Uh,
fourth Bears head coach in about 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Or no, yeah. And it's just, it's sad to watch, but when you bring in that new regime, you're gonna have that like ray of hope moving into the forward again. That like I think the fans of this franchise so poorly need, in all honesty. And
Absolutely.
if I'm a GM, I mean, I'd be chomping at the bit to bring the Bears back to relevancy. I mean, this fan base is one of the most passionate, and I'm gonna say in all of sports, not even just the NFL. I mean, obviously Chicago, one of the bigger markets in the entire country. And I mean, when the Bears were good in 2018, I had never seen like other than like when the Blackhawks made their runs, but like I hadn't seen like this entire level of like excitement around a team since the D Rose era Bulls. Like honestly, I mean, obviously the 2016 Cubs, but I mean the city's split between the Sox and the Cubs. But like the D Rose era Bulls and these Bears team, that 2018 Bears team kind of gave me similar vibes just about the whole city. It's appointment television. It was appointment television to watch Derrick Rose playing back in the day, and it was appointment television to watch the 2018 Bears defense play every Sunday. And just whoever comes in here, I mean, I'd be chomping at the bit for the
No, go
opportunity.
ahead.
I mean, the opportunity to bring a franchise back to relevancy and regain the trust and the hope of the fan base. I mean, as someone who wants, if hypothetically you're working in that role, I'd take that opportunity. Yeah, you're going to be under a microscope, but you can't do much worse than Ryan Pace did.
Hmm. And to go off on your point about the excitement of the city, in 2016, it felt like every sportscaster, even on the national platform, was a Cubs fan.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah.
that was the one thing. Like in 2016, I did not watch like Sports Center or MLB Tonight. I didn't watch because it was just a Cubs show
No,
the entire time. But that's another
yeah,
discussion for
I
another
mean,
day.
yeah, different discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one guy that's obviously been a hot commodity for a very, very long time. He's tweeted about the Bears on Twitter, despite being with ESPN. If the Bears hire Louis Riddick as their GM, I'm all in again.
I'm all in,
That's
all
because
in
that's
on that.
that's the thing about sports. All it takes is one move. You're back in with your team, even if they stink. It only takes one move. And I wanted to ask you because I think we touched upon this last week. I just wanted
Hmm.
to rehash on it. Pat
Hmm.
Fitzgerald has popped up in a lot of conversations in terms of being the Bears head
Hmm.
coach. How would you feel about
Hmm.
that?
You know, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. Obviously, he's a local guy he's from the south side of the city. He obviously doing great things at Notre Dame, or not Notre Dame, Northwestern. Geez, but the only thing that scares me about him, he always has his guys playing above their pay grade. I would say, which is a great thing for a college coach. A little bit harder to do in the NFL, I would say, but I feel like he just always has those letdown games once or twice a
Yep.
year. I mean,
Yep.
they they should have beat and handled Michigan State, and now they should have walked into the Big Ten championship undefeated, and they're going to walk in with one loss and just get steamrolled by Ohio State. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's not an indictment on him as a head coach. It's hard to get guys to come play at Northwestern. It's not a school for everyone. I fully am aware of that. I understand that. Do I think he would be a good option? I do. I don't think he would be the best option. I just think that he's a guy who's going to be linked to the Bears as long as he's alive, as long as he's
Yep.
coaching. I think that if the Bears want to keep it local, I think that there's someone who would be a very interesting option for a head coach. And call me crazy, but he's also from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's not their offensive coordinator, but he's a local guy. Mike Kafka, the quarterback coach of the Kansas City
Oh.
Chiefs. He's a local guy, went to St. Rita on the south side here, played at Northwestern, and he
Oh.
basically has groomed Pat Mahomes. He was brought in. He was a grad assistant at Northwestern for a year after he retired from the NFL. He's a journeyman. He played 5-6 years or something like that. He retired.
I knew
Went
that.
and was an up.
I knew the name sounded familiar. I knew the
Yeah,
name sounded familiar.
he was with the Eagles for a while, I believe, and he offensive assistant then with Andy Reid for a year, a quality control guy, I'm pretty sure. And then they draft Mahomes, and Andy Reid promotes him to the quarterback coach. He was getting, people were asking to interview him for head coaching options last year, and the Chiefs turned it down. So Andy Reid promoted him to quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. And apparently, Mike Kafka was calling the plays week 17 when Pat Mahomes made his first career start against the Broncos a few years back.
Ooh.
And he has basically groomed Pat Mahomes by himself, is what I've read. I think that's a
Let me
very
ask you a
interesting option.
question.
I think he's 33, so that's a bit of. I mean, that's an interesting
That's the
one. I
trend.
don't know. Yeah, no, it is exactly.
So let me ask you a question. So if Bieniemy and Kafka just fall into your lap, who do you go? Who do you pick?
You see, I don't think you can go wrong, but I think culturally, I think that Kafka could be the best option. But also, I don't know if Kafka leaves, but I feel like if he was to leave Kansas City, it's for the Bears. I think that because Andy Reid is supposedly extremely high in Kafka, trying to do whatever he can to keep him. I would not be surprised to see Andy Reid finish up this contract. He currently renewed, what was it? I think he signed like a 3-year extension at the beginning of the offseason. And then he just
Mm-hmm.
rides into the sunset with Kafka taking over for him. Because apparently Andy Reid loves Mike Kafka.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't go wrong. I don't think either of those guys are a bad option. I mean, they contribute to the most explosive offense I think I've ever watched in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no bad options. But then part of me also thinks if the McCaskey family are still running the show and they want it to be Chicago Bears football monsters of the Midway, you're gonna have to sign a defensive minded head coach, I think. To like they're just gonna want a complete 180 from Matt Nagy.
And see, I would not be down with that for the sole
I agree.
reason
No, I
that
agree. I agree.
yeah, yeah, because listen, the hallmark of the Bears has always been the defense. I mean, like it's one of those things where even if it's not the most talented bunch, they'll
Mm-hmm.
still be serviceable at best. Which you see in the trend in the NFL, a serviceable defense isn't half bad. The Kansas City Chiefs, you could say their defense
Mm-hmm.
is serviceable. They may be above
Mm-hmm.
average, and honestly, that's all you need.
Yep.
The Bears have been devoid of offense since Mark Trestman. Think about that. As bad as a head
Which
coach
is
Mark Trestman was, he had the offense rolling. He know how to use his weapons. It was just Jay Cutler was the quarterback. I mean, that's
yeah, I mean, you're not going to go any. I mean, no offense. I mean, looking back at the time, everyone hated Cutler. Now everyone loves to reminisce on Jay Cutler and just his gunslinger
not me.
mentality. Yeah, but I saw a stat come across Twitter. I think it was yesterday. Mitch Trubisky is officially the highest rated passer in Chicago
I
Bears
couldn't believe
franchise
that.
history. Me
I couldn't
either.
believe that.
I could not believe that. 86.1 quarterback rating, and that is the highest of this sorry ass franchise's history.
I just like the bar is very, very low, but the expectations is so freaking high. To top
Mm-hmm.
that, you have all you because you come in as a Chicago Bears quarterback, you're like, oh, I gotta be Mitch Trubisky to be the highest rated quarterback ever. Well, that's not bad, but then again, it's also a damn shame too.
Any
So
quarterback, yeah, it's any quarterback who comes here. It's you're walking in. You no quarterback has ever been successful here. I mean, let's be honest.
mm,
Yeah, Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl, but which also brings it up. I've already convinced myself that Zach Wilson being from BYU is all, oh, well, we won a Super Bowl 85 with Jim McMahon. I mean, hey, why not Zach Wilson? But I mean, I think I saw it being floated around. I mean, the chance to get Dak Prescott this offseason. I know his ankle is just in shambles, but I think that could be an interesting option to look into. With I mean, Dak Prescott, top 10 quarterback easily in my mind when he's healthy.
it would by far be the best quarterback we probably
Mm-hmm.
have in history, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, obviously it's not saying a lot, but you know It's just a matter of how much is it going to cost, who we're going to have to release. Because
I know.
that's
I
what I'm
know.
really worried about, because
Yeah.
the Bears going to have to make a lot of cuts this offseason because we're in cap hell right now. So
I think
where
what
do
I
we
think is,
go?
I honestly, I'm not going to say I want the Bears to completely just blow everything up and start over, because I still think you could get a few really good years out of this defense. But in order to start that mini rebuild, I mean, you're going to have to trade away some of those defensive assets. I would have no problem trading away Khalil Mack, in all honesty. I
Who?
really wouldn't. I mean, no indictment on him. I think he's still one of the premier pass rushers in all of football. But I mean, trading him would allow you to free up a lot of cap space, and the return you would get on him would still be pretty high. And
Mhm.
that could help really kickstart that mini rebuild, in my
It would
opinion.
kick.
Because I know that no one's going to want to part ways with guys like Eddie Jackson or Roquan Smith, those younger guys. But Khalil Mack just keeps getting older. I mean, his pass rushers just drop off a cliff like that, in
Yeah,
all
it's true.
honesty. And it's just, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I think the biggest priority, obviously, we say it every week, is the offensive line. You're going to have to do that.
Yep.
You're going to have to get a guy in the draft, I think, and you're going to have to rebuild through free agency, because you can't rely on a rookie offensive lineman to come in and be effective right out of the gates, in my opinion.
I totally agree. That's why when you brought up that point about going offensive line in the draft, that's like, true.
Yeah.
Inexperience may like play a part and whatnot. That's
Hmm.
what I'm a little like about it, but anything helps. Like literally anything. I am
Anything.
dying to get rid of Charles Leno at this point. And even Bobby Massey to a point, because I've never been high on the tackles, and everyone
Hmm.
likes to say, oh, Charles Leno gets picked on, blah blah blah. I just it's like it's a good reason for it. So if we can get tackles in the free agency or even the draft, I'm fine with that. We just need, like, I think the interior is fine because we have
Hmm.
options in terms of Whitehair and Daniels. You have Alex Bars that's come around.
Hmm.
Sam Mustipher, it seems like he's an excellent swing option.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so they have options. It's just a matter of like what are you gonna do about the tackle positions? Because that's the
Hmm.
biggest like
I know.
indictment on the
That's the
team if you
I
think about
mean,
it.
yeah.
Because like I think Lennon was the one who was getting Mitch killed on those two decisive sacks.
Hmm.
One who
Hmm.
being a fumble.
Yeah, I mean, tackle is, your NFL franchises, your two most important players, in my opinion, are not two most. You're three. You need your quarterback, you need your left tackle, and you need an edge rusher. Like that, those are the
Hmm.
big three, in my opinion. And we're shooting at about 33. We're shooting at 33% on that. And it's going to be interesting to see where we head into it this offseason. I I'm cautiously optimistic at the moment. I would say that's where I'm at. I'm ready to watch it burn in our faces and be disappointed, but I'm also at the point where I'm ready for change. I hope that's what happens, but who knows? Nothing might even change at all. Who I wouldn't even be surprised. Mitch plays really well to end out this year. The Bears go on a little bit of a win streak. Give him his 5th-year option. I wouldn't put it past the Bears, unfortunately.
They did it with
And that's
Cutler.
and that's not an indictment on Mitch, because I'm a fan of the guy. I want to see him succeed. I
Same
just think
here.
he just got thrown into such a horrible situation. He seems like just such a genuinely good dude. I mean, his quote the other day about like people asking him again, surprise, surprise, about the Mahomes and being picked ahead of Mahomes and Watson, and he nothing but respect for those two. He's like, good for them. They're succeeding in their positions. I'm trying to do the same here, and he hears the noise. He obviously is well aware that he is not on that level, never will be. But I would love to see him go somewhere and do well. It'd just be a big middle finger to Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy.
I'm expecting it, and it's gonna hurt like hell.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah. Well, we have a game that we all had originally marked as an easy win coming up on the schedule this weekend. I mean, Deshaun Watson probably just gonna do whatever he wants to the Bears and just gonna twist that knife inside of us a little bit more and make it
Yep.
hurt. So, you any predictions for this weekend before we wrap it up?
I would say this is going to be a 27-13 game in favor of the Texans. I feel like the Bears' offensive output was an anomaly. It's something that's not going to be
Mm-hmm. You,
something we should expect on a week in and week out basis. This defense is lingering. Deshaun Watson is flourishing. So right now, the Bears are in a world of trouble. But I'll tell you this though: if there's one game I would love to see Mitch win because he's being the Packers, he's being the Lions, he's being the Vikings. If there's
mm-hmm.
one game I would like to see him win, is this one, considering this is the guy that the Bears and everyone, in terms of experts and fans, wanted to be the quarterback of this team.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see him outdo Deshaun Watson. Will it happen? No.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm expecting absolutely nothing going into this game. I'm at the point where I would love to see him win, obviously. And I honestly think there is a possibility that they do win. Texans really never play well outside. And but I just want to lose out at this point. Get a higher draft
Yes,
pick.
same here.
I mean, honestly, just lose out. And honestly, a situation I wouldn't hate seeing is Bears lose out. And because the quarterback trends that we're seeing, a lot of they're projecting 4 or 5 quarterbacks to go pretty early in this draft, trade back, acquire some draft capital, and just get your guys a little bit later. I'd be fine with that. But yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go a little bit closer than you. I'm gonna go 24-17, and it's gonna be another blown lead. That's what I'm gonna say. Another blown lead, and morale will be completely shattered in that locker room after that.
I think we're headed towards a 17 unanswered points type of thing, aren't we? Or
Yeah, that's the way it's feeling. That is absolutely the way it's feeling. Just gonna
okay.
abandon the run game again, and it'll be a disaster. But we're gonna wrap it up. I hope this show went better than the ending of Game of Thrones. You can see the poster behind me. We will be back next week.